Hello everyone. I am going to demonstrate today how to connect your company to the Dynamic Small Business Search profile so that you can go ahead and give yourself an update for 2023. So a little backstory, there is no longer access through your SAM registration or through the general login system. So contractors will now have to log into their DSBS to perform their updates at connect.sba.gov. And I'm going to walk through and show you exactly how to do so. So the first thing we're going to do is sign in with our login.gov account. Okay, so when you first land on this page, you will only see these four at the top, and then you'll navigate over to the Access tab. When you get to Access, you're going to click Request Access. And then here is where you will find the HubZone portal, Subcontracting Network, otherwise known as Subnet, DSBS, which is what we're looking for, the EDMIS, and the SBIC web. This is the one that you'll probably use most commonly, maybe Subnet as well. But when you expand the DSBS, you'll check the box next to DSBS profile. You will paste your UEI number into the box and you will hit Submit Request. Once you submit your request, the SBA might take a day or two, but they will grant you access, at which point you can come back, log into this system, and proceed with your updates. So let me show you how to do that. I have already linked my account prior to the creation of this video. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my SBA profile here in the bottom box. And here I am. I'm right back to the same user interface that I am used to. The first page is rather useless, but feel free to move on to the second and make sure that you don't skip any boxes of manual entries. Each time that you come in and make an update, even if you're merely just adding a keyword, go ahead and change that date to today. And then once you have gotten to the last screen, you're good to go and you're all complete and finished. Thank you so much, and I hope this was helpful to capture the difference in the process and making sure that everyone can update their dynamic small business search profile. Remember, this is how, in a lot of cases, how the government and prime contractors will find you when they're looking. Now I'm going to find my way to the Profile tab, and my information is here from where I created my account. Though I need to add a new business to my profile. And here is where I'm going to enter my EIN. And my UEI. All right, now I'm going to click Submit. All right, my profile has been successfully updated. I'm going to navigate over to Access, to ProNet DSBS. I am going to select my company and I'm going to click Submit. Now at this point, a request goes to the SBA and they will need to approve the request before I can log in and update it. That could take anywhere from 0 to 3 days. I've not, in many instances, seen it surpass 3 days. Sometimes it does take a while to submit. You don't ever want to navigate away from this page or click around if the DSBS cursor is spinning. You just kind of want to leave it alone and wait. Hello, this is a continuation of the DSBS Dynamic Small Business Search Profile update. We have received our confirmation email that access has been granted to the SBA's general login system, and we have received our temporary password. I did go ahead and update my password, which I was prompted to do upon first logging in, and we are continuing with the update. We clicked on the link in the email, which takes us back to the general login system, agree to the terms and conditions, and I'll go ahead and log in. I now have the SBA supplemental pages link on the left-hand side. And to get started, I'll go ahead and hand the reins over to Anthony DeTore.
Hello. So this is the orientation help page. It's somewhat ironically named because I don't feel very oriented when I use it, nor do I feel helped. My advice, just breeze right through this page and move on to the next one. So this page is this is where you would load in your keywords. The NAICS codes that are showing, anything you see grayed the way the NAICS codes are there means that it's automatically populated by SAM. So there's nothing to do there. You've already done that in your SAM. So your next step is to look at keywords. Now, keywords are very, very important. You want to keep them shorter rather than longer. You want to keep them specific to what you do. When you are putting in keywords, think of things in the singular. If you put cars, if you sell cars, but you put cars, if somebody searches for car, you may not come up. So keep it singular when you can. If it's important enough to make it, like if the plural ends in IES and it's important enough, then add them both. I think you could put 24 of them in here. Okay. So, and they're all separated by commas. You have to, because that's how they count them, is they count the things between the commas. Okay. I actually had an experience with one where she was doing a search for a company, and a keyword which seemed like a logical keyword was in fact not very useful, because one agency referred to it as this thing and another agency referred to it as that thing. So in effect, you had to have both. But what was that? That was
water purification and water filtration.
Right. So what I typically do here is I search, I go to USA Spending, and I use USA Spending because it'll give me a description of the contracts. And I'll use keywords and I'll search, and then I'll go to, it's like CA, or, because it goes A, B, C, D, F, G, and then it moves on and on. So there's a lot of data that comes through there, but it's like CA or CB, and it'll have the description. So I like to use the keyword, look at those descriptions and see if those descriptions match what I do. And if they do, I know I've got a solid keyword. Here's where you would put your signature in, and the certification date. Even if you've got a rock solid DSBS, anytime you go into there, you want to click on that calendar and hit today, because you want to update that. And the reason why you want to update that is if I'm trying to make a decision about a company, the more recent that date is to the time I'm looking, well, the more relevant that information appears. So anytime you go, just periodically, I would go in here. I was going to say anytime you go through your SAM, but now you can't get here through SAM. But anytime I went through and thought about it, every 6 months or something like that, I would go in and update. Just even if you don't update anything else, I would update that date. These are all grayed out, so they're all provided by the SAM registration already. All right. If you have a website, what I typically do here is I'll actually open my website, because I want to get the HTTPS : / all that jazz, and have that, copy it and paste it in. If you just put mycompany.com, it's not going to be a link that will serve you. Grayed out page. Principals. And their titles. Yeah. If you have any non-federal governments certifications, like let's say you were a CPA, right? That's a federal certification. I would put that in. Or just think about what you do and how your non-government certifications help you and provide, make you better at what you do. And then I would add those in. All right. Your capabilities narrative. Your capabilities narrative is important. And you want to be thoughtful about how you do it. If you were to be looking at a search of companies in the DSBS, right? Like I'm looking for program development. So I'll type in program development and I'll get any number of hits. Can we do that? Actually, can we go to DSBS?
Yeah, absolutely. If it will load for us. I was not able to get in here earlier. Yes, okay.
Yeah, actually, I couldn't get in earlier either.
Right?
Okay, so what keyword do you like? What do you got there?
I've got catering, debris removal, disaster, landscaping, transportation, and data analytics.
Okay, let's do landscaping. And that's really all we need. Okay, so if you're looking at this list, right, you'll see that the number 4 is blank. And if you look up at the top, you'll see how many companies came up. So 3,320 companies came up. If theoretically, if I have 3,320 companies to look at, I'm not going to really be overly concerned with what the person who occupies line 4 in this particular search does, right? Or what is that, line 9 that's blank as well? So I'm not going to be overly concerned about that. I'm just going to pass right over them. So that's why it's important to have a capability narrative. Now, some capability narratives are better than others. The one that's highlighted there, number 10, I look at that. There's no fluff to that, right? It's this person, when they were doing it, said, we provide, and then they finished that thought, facilities management. And now there is something wrong with it, and that it's got, in order for that first keyword, because the first keyword it's a sentence, actually. Now that I'm taking a closer look at it, that's not a great one, because in order for this person to come up based on, or I'm sorry, my mistake. So facilities management, that one, that line 10, that's actually a pretty good capability narrative, because it just speaks to what they do. I read that, I know exactly what they do. So if you think about it, line 4, it is, if you're looking at line 4, it's not okay to be eliminated from the search because you didn't bother to tell anybody what you did. It's not okay. It is okay to get eliminated because you're not exactly what I'm looking for. That's fine, right? That means you've got a pretty wide keyword list, and that's really okay. It's not okay to get eliminated because you didn't bother to tell anybody, and it's not okay to get eliminated because you started in with, since 1997, my uncle and I had a dream, and our dream was to blah, blah, blah. I don't care, right? Like, I just don't care. I want to know what you do. And I want to know, are you in my net or not in my net? So keep it brief, keep it succinct, and, don't use market speak, right? Like, that's okay on your capability statement. It's great on your website. It's fine. But this is be direct, to the point. What do you provide? And no fluff. Now, sometimes Maybe you've been in business for 70 years. Okay, that's okay to add that, but add it to the end. Anything that you think is important enough to add it after you've explained what you do, after you've said what you provide. And it gets a lot easier here. That's about all I got to say about that.
All right. So you want to help me formulate my capability narrative?
Well, ma'am, what do you do? Well, like I said, start with we provide. You can always take it out, right? And finish that thought. Pretty solid. I know what you do. It's fine. So you see that there's no, we're the best at, and our people. This is, what do you do? And get it in there. Now, if I'm looking at this, I know exactly what this company does. And I don't have to wonder about it. And I don't have to move on to somebody else, necessarily, if that's what I'm looking for. So pretty solid. Now, if you're doing construction, you want to, I've heard people say that when you're looking at the percentages of business to, or, let's see, how do they word that? Like if you're construction or you're manufacturing, that you should always dedicate 5 to 10% to research and development. I don't know. I guess the thinking there is, well, we're always striving to learn and we're always learning more. And I get that. So I get it. Yeah, like that 1585. That's solid. And then if you are a company where ISOs matter and MilQ and all of that, well, make sure you get that in there because that's valuable as well.
Something else to also note, what I did not include in my capability narrative are my set-asides. That has its own place, and it's a search criteria.
Right.
So no need to take up space
Saying
letting them
we're
know.
a small business. You wouldn't be here if you were in a small business. And if you looked at the search page that we went through, and we went through it relatively quickly, if I'm looking for a woman-owned business, I can use a woman-owned business. Yeah, you're just wasting real estate there.
Wasting space. If I wanted an 8A, there's a little box that I'll check to select only 8A companies. We don't need to know about it in the narrative.
That's right. Stick to what you do. That's it. And the fact of the matter is, what you're talking about there is your value proposition. What do you bring to the table, right? If I wanted an 8A company or a woman-owned company or any of the socioeconomic set-asides, I could have searched for that in the beginning. What you're talking about here is what you do and what you do well. So what you do well is not being a veteran-owned business. What you do well is what you bring to the table, right? So it's not relevant in that spot. And if you insist on adding it at the end.
Agreed.
Okay. So this is, so do you want to be an exporter?
Only for product suppliers, by the way.
Yep. True enough. And then if you go through here, and this isn't for this particular one, but if you go through here, it's going to ask you what kind of relationship do you want and what's your export objective. And then you have to go through and pick the countries that you're willing to export to and all of that. So
in this
that's
case,
fun.
I'm going to say no.
Yep.
Now, keep in mind, if it is somebody who is interested in exporting, if you do end up checking either yes or want to be, it is important to note that the ITAR EAR requirements are going to come into effect, and that is a learning curve all on its own. So be sure to research those and or reach out for a specialized lawyer that deals in that space.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is your reference page. And if you have federal contracts in your already, then the top line is for the agency. The next one is the actual contract number. Okay, so every contract has a contract number, every federal contract. The start date, the end date. Now, if it's still in progress, then leave the end date blank. Okay. The value, the full dollar amount of value. And again, if it's in progress and you're getting paid, periodically, then whatever that contract was worth up to that moment when you're putting it in, that's what you put in here. Now, it's why some people feel like they don't want to share the value of the contract, and I get it, but there's a reason for it. And the reason for it is, if I'm looking for a company to provide a task or goods or services, I want to know that they can handle the job that I'm thinking about offering them. Okay. So if you were looking at, there's a $5 million contract out there, but the largest contract that you have listed in here is like, $2,850. Well, I'm going to look long and hard on that, and I may not do it. So the value is important, and it's important whether you're putting it in the commercial or whether you're putting it into the federal. Now, one other thing to add, let's say you're a subcontractor. If you're a subcontractor, in that name line at the top, you would put the agency that you did the work for, / and then you would put the company that you subcontracted under. Now, if you do that, I know that you are a subcontractor. So that means the value of the contract, you can use the entire value of the contract, even though you might have only been, again, I'm going to use a $5 million. It might have been a $5 million contract. Yours was only, your percentage of it was only 40,000, but you still were a subcontractor on a $5 million contract. So you can use that full dollar amount. Okay. Now, every federal has somebody that you had to work with, right? Like you'd be
Contracting officer representative.
Contracting officer representative, somebody, because somebody's responsible for talking about how you perform. Now, if it was a subcontract, your contact may have been with the prime. If that's the case, put that person in. And you may be a subcontractor on a federal contract, and your direct line of communication was with the contracting officer, in which case use that, whatever works. Then the contact phone for that contact, and then display order. Display order, if you look to the right, you'll see that it's 1 through 32,767. All right. That means that you could actually log in 32,767 of these entries. My feeling is that that's about 32,762 too many. Okay. 5, 6, not much more than that, because nobody's going to look any much further than that. But then you want to put them in the display order. So if this is your federal contract, the pecking order on these things is federal contracts, then subcontracts, of course, because I still consider them as part of federal. But the direct federal contract first, then the subcontracting, then state and local government, then commercial. Now, if you only have commercial, that's fine. Don't sweat it, because the commercial counts. That your experience that you build in the commercial world counts. You want to make it relevant to the work you want to do, and you want to make it as recent as possible. Okay. So, now, say it's commercial. If it's commercial, you put the name of the company that you worked for. You put where you have contract, put the service that you provided, but keep it short because you only have so many characters to use. Okay. So you may have to abbreviate to make it make sense, but you'll want to, if it was consulting or something like that, then put consulting or management consulting or whatever it is that you did. What do we look for? Landscaping? Yeah. Landscaping and groundskeeping or something like that. But put in where it says contract, put the service or the goods that you provided. Start date and end date, same rules apply. Value, same rules apply. And now, here's where it's a little different. If you have a commercial client and you don't necessarily, if it were me and I had a commercial client, I wouldn't necessarily want the federal government calling up and asking a bunch of questions about my contract with them because it could be easily misunderstood. And there's some room there where you can alienate a commercial client. In that case, I would put in under contact name, whoever is listed in my SAM as my past performance point of contact, your past performance point of contact. And I would put their phone number in so that I can in some ways control the narrative and so that nobody's out there antagonizing my commercial clients. Display order, same rules apply. So again, the display order, same rules apply. I wouldn't go much over 5, 6. I think 6 is tops, but use your own discretion with that. Now, if you don't have any, like you're a relatively new company and you just don't have any work experience, well, then there's nothing to do here. So don't let it throw you. But as jobs come up and as things happen for you, you want to make sure you get that in here. And then you're done. Now, in order to exit this page, oh, by the way, there's no back button in the DSBS. You have to hit next. And every time that you say, oh, you know what, I should have put that on that page, you have to kind of go around the horn again and kind of redo it. So, just do it. Now, if you want to exit from here, actually, I don't know why it's not doing anything there. Usually that would start you back on the first page again, page where you loaded in your keywords.
Surprise!
So you want to end this, you click this hot link. And normally that would save it. There you go.
There we go.
Oh, actually, it was doing what you were clicking before. Okay, so you can go back, but there's, like I said, don't hit your back button. Just a rule of thumb: don't hit your back button. It confuses easily. And that is how I would do your DSBS.
I think that's a wrap.
Very good.
Thank you.